Hi, Colin Davis, ShadowTechAlchemy.com. So what are we going to do where we have this situation where we really need to develop as a let's just bring it down to the Western civilization. We really need to mature. We really need to develop. We really need to awaken more. We really need to do our shadow work. We really even need to find out what shadow work is or what the shadow is. 99% of the public doesn't even know anything about this. And they're just projecting their shadow all over the place. And it's this group's good and this group's bad and this group's good and this group's bad and blah, blah, blah. And just back and forth, shadow games back and forth, just like it has been for as long as we know. And we have all of this, we have all the Jungian psychology, and we have so many other models and methods of development and new stuff like internal family systems. And we have all this stuff and no one's using it. And I mean, a handful of people are, but a tiny percentage of the public is using it. And the public is totally psychologically illiterate. And half of the American public are obese, and everyone's on pills and addicted to the internet, and no one reads anymore. And I mean, the American public reads at the 6th grade level. It might even be less now on average. And our IQs have dropped and all of this, and the leaders are just incredibly immature all over the West. I usually just stick with the West. I don't usually talk about the whole rest of the world because I don't know it very well. I know Europe, I know America, I know the West. And so this is the situation we're in. We have the tools that we need to develop, to heal, to advance ourselves internally, and we're not using them because we're all afraid of our shadow junk. We're all afraid of doing the work. We don't want to take the nasty medicine, right? And so that's where we are right now. And you know, I talked about the human potential movement of the 60s and the 70s and all of that, and there was a lot of optimism about what could be done with these new understandings and with all the consciousness research and all the different kinds of therapies that were emerging in the you know, all throughout the 20th century, but this really kind of peaked in the 70s. And now that's kind of petered out because people really didn't take it all the way. And if you don't take it all the way, you know, you run into your junk, and then you just stop right there. And that's what a lot of people did. And then the society just got very materialistic, and kind of now here we are. And everything's kind of falling apart and everything's degrading. And so what do we do? Well, long term, I mean, on the larger scale, me and you, we can't do a whole lot about it. It's more like what we can do is, Melissa and I, we had these two coins that came into our life. And one of them said, go with the flow, and the other one said, plant the seed. And that's kind of our mandate. And so on one hand, we have to go with the flow. The society is way too big. We cannot create movements of psychospiritual alchemists. There has to be an upswelling of that kind of energy has to manifest on its own organically. And it will, and these things happen. There are always these movements of evolutionary cultural energy. That's how we got here in the first place. But they come in their own time, and they come in their own way, and we can, when they emerge, you know, we can ride those waves. If we're a little bit advanced, if we're a little bit ahead of the curve, we can help if we're ahead of the curve. But we kind of just have to kind of wait it out and see what happens. But in the meantime, we can be doing the work and really developing ourselves and taking the science of inner development to the highest level that we can, and really being athletes with it. And so that when our experience can be used, it will be able to be used. So that's kind of where we are right now. And so I find very, very few people who are as dedicated to this as I am, or as dedicated as Melissa and I were. But there are a few. And so I just want to encourage those of you who are super serious to stay with it. And you can always get in touch with me. And I give my books away, and I'm very open and easy to communicate with, and I'm very supportive of everybody else who's very serious about doing the work. And even if people are stuck, I will help people, regardless. I mean, I offer paid coaching, but I don't even care about that. I will help people no matter what. And so, I offer myself out there as a resource, and I just want to encourage people to stay with it and to really deepen their studies and their inner work, and really do what you can to try to bring your spouses into it, and because you really want to do this in the context of a relationship. That's the most powerful way of doing this inner work, is in your relationship, where both people are as dedicated to it as the other. And so, but if you don't have that, if you can't get that right now, you do what you can do. I would really encourage people to really get into Jungian psychology if you're not already into it. This is the Western tradition's esoteric, or let's say alchemical method that we have. The most advanced system that we have for transmuting your own darkness is in the Jungian system. And so there's so many authors and all of that. And so people can kind of get into that whatever way they want. I often refer people to Eric Johnson, that's a musician, Robert A. Johnson, because he writes very simply. And I say also, in terms of the Jungian stuff, the most important stuff is about the shadow. The other stuff will come. Maybe the dream, developing a symbolic literacy so that you can interpret your dreams, and understanding the whole way in which the collective unconscious produces myth, which then comes through our dreams. It's important stuff. There's all kinds of important stuff in there, but the most important stuff is understanding the shadow, how it works, and integrating your own shadow material. And so I also encourage you to go download my last book, which is free, Transforming Darkness, and get it at shadowtechalchemy.com and read that thing. It's only 125 pages or something. It's short. It's very deep, but it's short. And there's like 30 shadow work practices in there from all kinds of different perspectives. And so, but you really need to understand that this, I'm going to say this, I've been saying this lately. Evil is the product of us dumping our shadows into the world. And a great degree of the disease and all the syndromes and all the symptoms and everything else that we have as a society is the product of us not being able to process our own shadow, passing it on to each other intergenerationally, and then sitting on this. And so some people project it out more easily, some people hold on to it more. We all project it though, but some people, it kind of goes internal more than it goes external. But either way, this is the most important thing. And then from there, then you can widen and go out from there. And one of the things that I've been doing is trying to take that core information about the shadow and put it into a place where you can find it. And so you don't have to be crawling through all of this Jungian literature, which is so vast and so difficult to get into. I've been trying to demystify the shadow knowledge that we have, and put it into a place and speak about it in a way that you can understand. Kind of just do a lot of this kind of early work for you, give it to you, and then you can use it on yourself, and then you can go on the rest of your journey, studying the Jungian system and whatever other system you want to study. But I would say that as Westerners, I think this is really, I really think that we need to start to use the Jungian vocabulary and start to understand what's in that science, because that's the best psychospiritual science that we have in the West. So yeah, and then community, getting with other people who are as advanced as you can find, right? And getting with people physically. This whole thing of being online all the time and everything, this is not going to work long term. This is really degrading us. So we need to find each other. We need to get together with each other. I'm planning a conference that will eventually happen. I don't know exactly when, but it has to get to the point to where I trust that enough people are serious enough to where they'll actually buy a plane ticket and go to a conference. Because, you know, most people who are into psychospirituality are just not serious enough to do that. And so I'm kind of waiting to get a signal to where I see that there are enough people who are serious. So anyway, yeah, that's it. And you know, I've been talking about Eric Neumann's book, Depth Psychology and a New Ethic, where he talks about we need to move into a new ethical. We need to move into a new ethic where people recognize that you have to process your shadow material. You have to process your shadow material, otherwise it's going to get dumped into the world. You're going to collectivize with other people, and then you're going to form these very low consciousness groups, and then you're going to demonize and project and create all of this mass hysteria and wars and all of that. And you've got to pull yourself out of that, and you've got to start individuating and processing your own shadow. That's the next level of ethics. It's the next level of ethical development that we need to go into. Well, that was 80 years ago that he was saying that. And so that's where I'm at. This is what Melissa called homo bilancia, balanced mankind. And balanced mankind comes from people who are individuating, people who are integrating their shadow material. And that's where balanced mankind comes from. If you're not doing that, you're not balanced, and you're not gonna be balanced. And so, yeah, I guess that's all for right now. ShadowTechAlchemy.com.